Welcome to the Brannigan Communications Podcast. We are here on a gray Wednesday afternoon with two of the foremost grammatical experts within these four walls. I'm joined by Janet Rosh and Rebecca Kanya.
Hello.
I'm your host, Griffin, for today. So today, why are we here? We're talking about AP Style. Earlier this year, as they do, I guess probably
Every year. Yep.
The AP Stylebook announced their new updates, revisions. This year there was over 200 new or modified entries in the AP Stylebook. So we wanted to have a discussion about that. And kind of researching for this, I feel like there's a lot of different ways we could go with it. But I just wanted to start for both of you, maybe starting with Rebecca. How relevant, how impactful has the Stylebook been generally in your career, in your life? Like, how much is it a part of your work?
I would say I use AP Style on a daily basis in my writing, and editing process. So very influential career-wise. I certainly don't, lose sleep at night over like punctuation or anything like that, but definitely use it on a daily basis.
You don't like sleep with it under your pillow?
No, I don't study it. It's not my...
Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
I'm going to say right after the Bible. It's my number two.
Number two?
Yeah. And they do call it the Journalist Bible, so there's a reason
so
for it.
You take that seriously?
Yeah, I do.
So more of an Old Testament style book.
There's some New Testament vibes in there as well.
All right.
So it's all right.
So, where did it start? In college?
Yeah, college, journalism major. You had to have the AP Stylebook.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really, for me, I didn't really value it at that time. I just knew it was something I needed, but now it's, like Rebecca said, a go-to resource on a daily basis, especially writing and editing. For me, it's kind of like it grounds me and gives me direction, and like the rules of order or the standards, like that's what, you have to have something to lean on or fall back on, because otherwise it's a Wild West out there. People write and use words in crazy ways, and there's no consistency, and this says here's order. It brings order to writing and editing.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially, in more marketing communications, where if we're writing for clients, they do have some of their own personalized rules that they follow, and so this helps, me. At least I can still stick to this style guideline as a reference, and, I guess that kind of at least justifies, if they're going to have their own way of doing things for a few things like titles or whatever, at least I can still ground myself in the AP style.
Yeah, I was going to say common ground. It's that steadying force for you guys, I guess.
Right. It's not just for journalists. It's for people who work in corporate communications, or like Rebecca said, marketing, or scientific research or education. It's just like a foundational thing that sets the standards, and then there's no confusion on what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Although with some of the changes for 2019, I feel like they're going down a path that is a slippery slope.
Okay.
But let's
get into that.
Yeah.
So we can kind of hit it as in broad strokes, and before we get into a few of the maybe more specific ones. So the 2019 changes, and then as they apply to the style book generally, how relevant are these changes for the style book? And what do you think is some of the reasoning behind some of these changes? Why do they do this every year? Why do they decide to change 200 things every year?
Well, I think this is a high number. I don't think that in the past maybe it has been quite that high. This particular 2019 edition is about an inch thicker than last year's edition, so they've added some more sections or really blown up some stuff in there. I think in general it's good to update it, because language evolves, society evolves, the way we use words evolves, and I think it's fine for the AP Stylebook to reflect that. But sometimes I think the changes are almost at a whim, instead of, do you really need to change it that fast? Like they're trying to be too current, and maybe there's something to be said about sticking to some old rules. I mean, words we used to hyphenate 100 years ago, we're not hyphenating anymore. We use, language and writing has evolved. But I remember underway in the AP Stylebook was always 2 words in all uses. I hope I'm getting that right. But now it's 1 word in all uses. So every time I think of underway, I have the rule memorized in my head, and I have to flip it because now it's different, which is fine. And because more people, use underway as 1 word. Like healthcare is always one that's always like, is it hyphenated? Is it 2 words? Is it 1 word? And, having the AP Stylebook, that can help you figure it out and how to be consistent.
Mm-hmm. What is healthcare?
And now I have
2
to
words.
look it up. I think it's 2 words. I think it's 2
It
words.
angers me when I see it written as 1 word.
Right. So
was it ever 1 word in AP?
Well,
I don't.
Yeah.
I
For
don't
some
know.
reason, I honestly think like hospitals use it as 1 word.
Yeah.
But for AP Style, I believe it's still 2 words.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know why, but it's just like one that I know, and I'm like, it must be 2 words.
But again, then that's the rule, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
That's what you fall back on.
I'm a rule follower.
Right. Right. I need the rules of order, otherwise my life is out of control.
Well, yeah, so I'm kind of interested in that because I think it does make sense as this kind of common language that everybody can look towards and say, okay, well, we might have different ideas for like branding or whatever, but we can kind of all refer to the AP Stylebook as like, here's this thing that we can all share as like generally agreed upon. But then, what constitutes like kind of crossing the line into just like, why are they changing some of this stuff? So the percentage thing, what's the point of changing that?
I'm not sure about that. So in the past, if you said 5%, you would always write out the word percent. And now the change for 2019 is to use percentage sign. I think they make a lot of their changes based on how people are using it, what they see, the input they get. But and then AP Style, overarching, journalists' rules of writing, brevity, right? So obviously the percent sign takes up less space in an article than the word percent. So that could be a motivator. I feel like that one is just kind of random. Mm-hmm. But some of the other ones, make sense to me by like adding new words that people talk about, like in the media or in general conversation or in the business world. And so I think it's good to update the style book with the words of the day, like the vernacular of the day. Because as a journalist or as someone who is doing writing, you might want to know what the usage for that is, or how to use it on second reference or whatever. And so I think that's really important to keep current in that way.
Yeah, I think that's it kind of gives you a snapshot of what happened in like the past year, or whatever time frame it is, because you can see a lot of the words that they had to address or pick up, or
it's reflective of what's going on in society.
Yeah,
like
I think
bud
that's
tender is a new entry in 2019, or deep fake, or cryptocurrency, and those are all things that reflect society and the things that are happening.
Right. So I do think that kind of a snapshot makes sense. Some of the stuff that I think are they just trying to go with the media model of like selling papers, is like, it seems like every year there's a few like real like things that cause big discussions in like the copy editor space, where it's like, this year it seems to be the percentage thing, and maybe a few years ago it was like lowercasing internet or something like that. It's like they do a few where I feel like it's like, this is going to cause some debate and get us kind of out in the consciousness a little bit. Maybe that's a weird view.
No, I mean,
but
I think we definitely have had that conversation when the new style book comes out. Why are they changing that? They're just trying to sell more style books. But like the internet, for example, when that first started, World Wide Web, that's what people said. Then it was web and website and then internet, and now those are just in the vernacular. They're so commonplace. Nobody says World Wide Web anymore. If you give a website address and you put www in front of it, people look at you like, what are you saying? So, I mean, things change, so I get that. But some of the things I feel like some of the changes almost degrade the rules of writing or language, like over or more than. When they changed that one, that you could never say over before. It was always more than 15 or less than 15, not over 15, because over had a different meaning. And so now you can use over, which again, I have to retrain my brain to say, okay, we can use that. But it's like, did that really help? Does that help language? To change, to use a word that the meaning is not as clear as more than.
Well, that's one of my questions. So should the style book, and it's probably like most things somewhere in the middle, but should it be a standard bearer for society, or should it be reflective of society?
I mean, I think it should be a standard, because I do think some of the changes reflect, society. I think it's like, I feel like sometimes they're like, oh, we just lost the battle on that, so let's just, let's make internet lowercase, or let's make website one word, I mean.
So you think they should kind of dig in and be like, nope,
yeah,
uppercase.
I mean.
Well, I think, that's a great question, because there are two ways to go. There you can be prescriptive or descriptive, right? And I feel like they should be more prescriptive, but I feel like the way they've been making changes, it's more like oh, we're modern or whatever. It's like, well, the old rules, you can have both, but I feel like having the standard is the most important thing.
Well, and there was a few examples that kind of speak to this. So I found this one, the Columbia Journalism Review did an article, and they cited that the AP Stylebook, it was either this year or maybe last year, they recommended to use the Affordable Care Act sparingly, because not all Americans know the law by its formal name. So in my mind, it's like, shouldn't they know the law by its formal name? Like, why are we...
You're dumbing it
like,
down.
dumbing it down.
Right.
Yeah, right. And like that one, I just feel like, so why give up that fight, Or there's another one.
You're preaching to the choir, Griffin.
This one I found on PR Newswire, and it's the parenthetical sick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they advise, same thing, they advise people not to use that because many readers don't know what that means. So they advise you not to use that. It's like, well, shouldn't we just educate them on what that means and use it?
Right. Why dumb it down? Again, that's a great example as well.
Especially because that one in particular kind of plays into like misspellings and, this kind of like this lack of emphasis on good grammar and things like that. And if you lose sick, then you kind of lose the fact that, hey, this is actually not the right way that should have been written, or things like that. Like it kind of trickles.
Yeah, or they suggested writing it how they said it, which I can't.
Yes.
Well, then that makes a person look kind of
right.
dumb.
I mean, when we came up as journalists, that was, you wanted a direct quote, but if the person was going to sound like an idiot, you were supposed to either paraphrase or put sick in there, because you have to recognize that that is not proper English or, good grammar. And now that is pretty much gone. So I feel like that's a step backwards for sure. Some of the other things that are, I don't know, I feel like they just made some changes that I just don't like in double E constructions, like re-elected, you don't have to use the hyphen anymore.
Yeah.
And that just, why?
Right.
That re-elected, that word looks terrible without a hyphen, but maybe too many people weren't putting it in. I don't know. And then, I think there's some other ones that make sense, like for heritage, like African American or Asian American, you don't need the hyphen
Dropping
anymore.
the hyphen on that, right?
Right. I mean, obviously it's subjective, but now these are the rules that we have to follow. But
Well, and that's another good example of them putting a focus on something that needed good focus and good revision, basically.
yeah, that one. But then they take out the hyphen and double E constructions, but you leave it in for words that start with anti or anti, or mid. There's no hyphen, like a midday, rendezvous or something like that. But
Those
I don't know.
modifiers, well, hyphens in general, it kind of seems like they are trying to stay very broad on that.
The hyphen thing, that's what really boils my blood.
Yes.
You go first. What don't you like about it?
Well, I mean, I agree with you as far as the hyphens. They're like taking hyphens out, like for like the double E construction, but then saying you do need them elsewhere. It's like, I don't know. At this point, I think we have to go one.
Right, make a rule or don't make a rule.
It kind of seems like they're throwing up their hands and they're like, if it's like if you think if you think it helps, then use it.
Exactly. That's basically what they've said. Like if you need it for like clarification, throw it in there.
Right. In the hyphen entry, you can read that thing and not know when you're supposed to hyphen.
Yeah.
It's so subjective. Well, if you need it for clarity, then use it. Well, my clarity and your clarity might be two different things.
That's why you get the style book, right? In your mind, like that should clarify.
Right, and then you go to it and you can't do it.
Yeah.
So that is a big frustration.
Right.
Are there other ones like that stuck out this year?
That's really the main one, I think, with the hyphens.
Yeah, that was the biggest one.
I know.
I did see they eliminated the comma after et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's not there anymore. Yeah. And that was always a little thing that we would catch. I think the Oxford comma out in the world is getting there's a lot of debate about that. And AP style, you don't use the comma, but Oxford comma, you do put it in the series of 3. And I mean, it goes back to clarity, right? What are you trying to say? I mean, you have the AP style, but if it's not clear, then you put it in, right? So, I mean, that's pretty cut and dried. If you can, I think I heard on the radio the other day, somebody put on one of their social channels, she did a series of 3 things: my parents, comma, Batman, and Robin. So AP style, series of 3, you drop the last comma, but then her parents are Batman and Robin, right? So then that's not clear. Or to make it clear, you would put the comma in a series of 3 things: my parents, Batman, and Robin. So punctuation matters, right?
Matters, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you don't want to get too prescriptive, because people have to read what they're writing and make sure it makes sense too. So I could kind of see in some cases where they're like, hey, use your discretion based on your situation, but it seems like, especially with the hyphen thing, there could be a little more clarity there.
I agree. There's one new entry, Santa Claus, that they think is like so cute, but I'm just like, why? So the Santa Claus, comma, Santa entry, this is how it reads: nice in any reference.
That's the actual.
Right. Naughty, using Claus on second reference. Mrs. Claus is acceptable for Santa's wife. See Kris Kringle. I mean,
okay, so this is a thing, like, I think it's generally a force for good, but why do they feel they need to weigh in on that?
Yeah. Right now in 2019, they have to put Santa Claus in there. Was he in there before? I don't know. I don't remember actually ever looking that one up.
I found a few other ones like that. The preferred spelling of donuts, you guys probably know, right?
Oh,
I'm gonna say
I'm
the
gonna
long
say
way, right?
Yeah.
Is it? That is
DOUGH.
Yeah.
But then it says you can use DONUT as a casual spelling.
Okay.
So, like, what's a casual use of donut?
I don't know. Proper donuts.
It's like, why are you weighing in on something like that?
Right.
Well, I saw bologna and bologna, like the two different, one's a lunch meat, one's
BS.
a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah.
I found one, they discouraged slang in sports writing. So home runs should just be homers, not like a dinger or something like that. Just homers. Refrain from some verbiage like losing a game isn't a disaster. Like they don't want you to go to that level with it.
They want you to be more objective in your account of the games, right?
And I just kind of wanted to run this by you guys. You guys both watch sports. So they're kind of saying don't use colorful language in that case, but they added a term called parking the bus. Do you have any idea what parking the bus is? Because I watch a few sports and I've never heard of parking the bus.
Nope.
No.
In sports, the sports entries, parking the bus.
And I believe I got this as well from PR Newswire, I want to say. I can double check that, but it was just kind of a recap of different changes. And parking the bus is used to describe how a team packs its defense to protect a lead or a draw.
I've
So that's
actually
acceptable?
never heard anyone
Yeah.
use that term in sports, and I watch and listen to a lot of sports.
Parking, don't say a loss is a disaster, but if you can slip parking the bus in there, just like who's deciding this stuff? It's so,
I thought, sports writing was supposed to be a little more colorful,
Yeah, and I guess they're trying, like, if you read, like, 1920s, like, football stories, that's pretty different, pretty colorful, but I don't know. This parking the bus thing really threw me off. I don't understand it. I don't even know really what sport it refers to.
No. Anything involving a bus.
Just park the bus to play good defense is what we're learning there.
So that's like building a wall. Can you say that?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe that'll be in the 2020 book.
All right.
Even
I'm going to submit my recommendation now.
Right. They're waiting for them.
But he probably can't say building a wall.
Yeah, that has different connotations as well now. Any other, I guess, favorite rules or least favorite rules over time that you kind of, maybe not favorite's not the best way to say it, but anything that really sticks out to you as like, that's an AP style. They just nailed that one. So good. Such a good rule.
Well, one I always find that people misuse is the annual references. So first annual, second annual, those aren't things. AP styles, maybe it's changed now, but it's always been until an event has been held for 2 consecutive years, you can't use the annual tag with it. So there's no first annual thing because it wasn't
might
a thing
never
before,
happen again.
right? And it might not happen
Right,
again. So,
right.
So that's one that people misuse all the time. It kind of annoys me, but does it really matter? Maybe not, but it matters to me.
Right. Yeah, there's those things that just grate on you.
Right.
That if you weren't in the industry, you probably wouldn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband always notices that
Does
now.
he?
He's like, look, it says first annual. And I'm like,
Caught
I think
him.
I have my husband trained too.
but I mean, I think, like dates, like
Time-
how,
Time
Okay,
day date,
okay.
right?
yeah.
Always
So-
misused.
Right.
I've kind of loosened up on that, but on invitations and stuff, but it bugs me.
Well, that kind of goes back to my relevant question. So you're saying like, does it really matter? It does to me. And I think it generally does have some significance still, but especially as people go more to like visual communication and like shorthand and stuff, like are there going to be like emojis in the style book someday, do you think? Like what do you guys predict for like 2025 style book? Because like, you can convey a whole feeling or a whole like kind of sentence in like a GIF or an emoji. So maybe that's not a style book question, but it is kind of interesting how language is changing.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I'm going to say no emojis in the style book.
Okay.
I don't predict that
No
happening.
illustrated section.
Perhaps. I don't know, maybe. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I don't know. I feel like you said, they're just going to try, it's going to be a continual, like, they have to show that they're on it and like, here's the new trendy terms of the past year and we got to make sure that that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they'll probably go to the illustrated route.
I don't know, if they start adopting like how people write texts, I think I'm gonna have to like switch over
Right.
to like Chicago style manual.
You're going to jump ship on the AP style.
Yeah, so
It's
what's
now
up with the
acceptable
Chicago
to use a
manual?
B/C instead of because.
Right, so I don't know, like, could we ever, is LOL in there? It's not, is it? That's more of a dictionary thing, I guess, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not in here, but I could be surprised. Of course, I have mine with me, so I can look anything up at a moment's notice. And, that's really the thing. It's not memorizing everything in here.
Right.
It's just knowing that if you're writing, it's a resource, and you should check
Right.
it. And that's what I try to teach, is that I want you to think, oh, should I look in the style book for this? Is there a way to write this, and use it as a resource instead of literally knowing, all of the entries in here. I do not see LOL. I know, right?
That's good. So far, so good. Yeah, I think that it's always going to have a place for sure. But I think it's interesting, if anything else, just because it does reflect what's going on. Like I think they changed something to don't say ride sharing anymore. It's ride booking. Because for a while it was just like, yeah, it's a ride share. But then they actually took a look at that and they said, well, if you're like sharing a ride, it's not really the same thing. You're basically hailing a cab or you're booking a car or something. So they took a newer term and they actually did tweak it in a way that I think makes sense going forward.
Mm-hmm. Ride hailing, ride sharing. Ride hailing services such as Uber and Lyft let people use smartphone apps to book and pay for a private car service, or in some cases, a taxi. They may also be called ride booking services. Ride sharing refers to app-based services that let people book a shared shuttle. Zipcar and similar companies are short-term car rental services. There you go.
We just read
That's the rule.
a rule on a podcast. All right. I think we're almost done here. Let's just do a quick AP style quiz.
Oh, no.
No fair, she's got the book
I
there
got
to
the book.
reference.
You cannot open the book.
But that was
Producer Nick is going to confiscate
No,
your
I'll
book.
just channel it.
All right. It's more of it's a religious artifact in this case. So. Okay, question 1. We visited the wildlife habitat at Gulf States Corp. Or Corporation?
Corp.
Easy. That is correct.
We know.
Question 2. Police stepped in to break up or break up with a hyphen the fight.
no hyphen.
No hyphen.
That's got to be right. Yep, that's right. So in that case, yeah, people
Well, that's
probably
a
have
verb.
written it that way, like break up, but that would be,
It was a bad breakup.
Yeah,
then it
that would be hyphenated.
You think so?
Because then it's a noun.
okay. That's good.
I'm sure
Good
Rebecca
color.
actually knows more than I do, so I'm a little
About
nervous right now.
breakups?
No, about hyphens, obviously.
Question 3. Mark watches Wheel of Fortune in quotes or Wheel of Fortune just capitalized every night.
Quotes. TV shows
Correct.
are in quotes.
Yep.
And basically italics are
That's Chicago style.
Chicago style.
We don't. AP is not italics.
Like pizza, Chicago style is inferior. Question 4. Anderson and Rockwall counties or counties capital C contain large metropolitan areas.
Lowercase.
Lowercase.
Yep. Is this too easy?
Yep.
Oh, question 5. I had 5 cents / $.05 in my pocket. So do you do 5 and then write out cents, or
Yes.
do you do?
I mean, that's how I would do it, but I think it changed.
What? It might have.
Well, you can't look.
Oh, yeah.
Should we go with Rebecca's?
Well, I think we both said we would write it out,
Okay,
right?
so we'll go with that. We'll go with 5 cents written out, and that is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That was a close one.
But if you say, I'm going to give you my 2 cents worth, then
Yeah.
2 is written out. and cents is written out.
There was something about the percentages, like how you, like if you're using the percent sign, like how you do like fractions. You don't do fractions. You know,
It's too complicated.
It was
That
mine.
sounds like math to me.
Exactly.
So, too much.
Let's do one more here. I don't like this one. I'm going to skip it.
Is there a Santa Claus question?
No, but this is a good one to end on. It's kind of one of those classic AP style questions. He miscalculated the effect of his actions. A or E?
He miscalculated the effect of his actions. Well, effect with an A is influence, and effect is result.
Well, I'm going with E.
E.
That's what I would say too. That's correct. All right. I think we got 100%.
Oh yeah, we did.
Producer Nick, did we 100%?
Sure.
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 Good.
A for effort.
A for effort.
What?
We'll
It
take-
was 100%.
You skipped it up below.
Well, I skipped one because it wasn't very good. Anyway, I think we have everything we need to know about AP Style 2019. So, general ruling, very good. Some weird decisions on the fringes and, you know, in some of the lower level minutia of AP Style. But really, ultimately, if you are looking there, you probably care about it too much anyway, right?
It'll all
You
change
can
in
never
2020.
hear about it too much, Griffin.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Subscribe to the Brannigan Communications Podcast on all major podcast platforms and follow us on all social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Thanks. We'll see you later.